Let's just get started. Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, food, music, TV shows, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is not Dan with a H. He's not here today. He's not out of town. He's just not in Melbourne. But I'm going to be joined by a very special guest, a very good friend of mine. And we're going to be covering the MIFF 2023. But yeah, I just want to introduce Marcus Chong. So yeah, thanks for coming on the show today, man.
All good, dude.
Yeah. So Marcus and I, we've worked together on a couple of projects. We're working together on a few different things, but you're quite knowledgeable about films. We've had many a conversation about a lot of like kind of art house films. So yeah, I'm hoping to get you to come on the podcast a bit more. But for those who, well, for our listeners that don't know you, well, obviously they don't know you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself as a creative or as a filmmaker.
Yeah, first up, cheers, dude.
Yes, that's right. We're drinking some Maker's Mark, man. It's good shit.
Okay, I guess first off a bit about myself. I'm a motion designer. That's my main job. So I specialize in doing 3D motion design. So mainly work with a lot of brands, studios, agencies, like doing 3D animation work. And then on the side, I do music, a bit of live performance as well. And then as of recently, like a bit of writing. Trying to get into a bit of filmmaking. That's where I met you, like on that small film set.
Yeah. I'm not sure if we can talk about that just yet, but we worked together on a film before, and we kind of just hit it off ever since. And yeah, you got us into touch with our good friends Sachar, me and Sarah. So actually, you have been mentioned on this podcast once before. So if we were, we can put a link to that episode. That was a good chat. But yeah, before we get into like the meat of the episode, where did your love of film come from? Because you have a pretty you have a very broad taste in movies from like the times I've talked to you. You know a lot about like a lot of filmmakers that I haven't even heard of, So where did that kind of stem from?
I guess when I was younger, I mentioned I'm working in a motion design industry now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I was 18, after I came out of secondary school in Singapore, I wanted to study film because back then I was really into Lord of the Rings. The Rings blew me away. And then I think in secondary school in Singapore, when I was in my third or fourth year there, I think when we were just about to graduate, the school brought in. And I think at that time, Lord of the Rings 3 just came out. I can't remember which one was that, Return of the King?
2003 was Return of the King. Yeah.
Return of the King.
Yeah, the last one, yeah.
Yeah, it was probably that one. Either the second or the third one. And then, so they invited a VFX artist over to our school to give a talk.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I can't remember if that was it ILM or, what was Peter Jackson's one?
Is it a waiter?
Maybe it's Weta,
yeah. Weta, yeah, that's the New Zealand one, yeah.
Yeah, so it's either that or, ILM. But they got the VFX artists over and then they were breaking down some of the battle scenes for us where they were showing us how, they would hire maybe 100 extras and then they would clone it to it looks like a huge army on screen. Yeah. So that was pretty cool like that. Anyway, I was kind of blown away by that. So I was like, okay, I want to go to study film. And then film was my first choice. Motion design was my second choice. My grades weren't good enough to get into film school.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I went into motion design and kind of forgot about film for I would still watch film, but just in terms of trying to
pursue it, yeah.
I kind of forgot about it. Up until fairly recently, actually, I kind of watched The Lighthouse.
Right, yeah.
And it kind of I think The Lighthouse was a really good example of a very unique world that you can make in film. So that got me really excited. And then yeah, I guess like ever since watching Lighthouse, which is not like that long ago, like maybe I'd seen it. I probably watched it like during COVID or something. And then I started digging for films, like trying to find interesting films, and then kind of like getting back into it.
I almost had a similar trajectory into film as you. Like I was a big fan of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think Lord of the Rings trilogy is probably my favorite film trilogy franchise. I wouldn't say franchise, but like I definitely grew up watching Lord of the Rings in the cinema. So that would have been really cool to see how they would have done all like the visual effects and stuff, which I still think hold together really well, even by today's standards. Yeah,
it does. I was about to say that, I think like last week or something, I went back to look at like some of like the battle scenes like in like Lord of the Rings, and it's like it still holds up. Like looks good.
Yeah, even better than some of the stuff these days, to be honest. But like let's not get into a Marvel bashing session as I've often done on this podcast. But yeah, no. As I was mentioning earlier, you and I we watched a fair few films. Well, I only watched three. The three that we're going to talk about today. But we watched some movies at MIFF this year. So for international listeners, MIFF is the Melbourne International Film Festival, which is probably the biggest one or the second biggest one. I'm not sure which one's bigger, like SIFF. SIFF, Sydney Film Festival?
I actually haven't been, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been to SIFF. I went to watch Broker there last year. We did a podcast with Dan.
Yeah.
It was a good movie, but viewing experience wasn't the best because event cinemas don't have very good soundproofing. So I was watching Broker and listening to Jurassic Park at the same time when I was watching that movie. So it was a pretty funny experience. But no, we're going to talk about three films. One from Hirokazu Kore-eda, his latest Japanese film, and his first one in a few years since Shoplifters, Monster. And then we're going to talk about Kim Jee-won's return to Korean cinema. Is it return? No, he did.
What was his previous one?
Actually, no. He did Il Young the Wolf Brigade, the adaptation. So it's not a return, but his first film in a few years as well, Cobweb. And then lastly, we're going to talk about Wim Wenders, also a return from a long hiatus as well, Wim Wenders Perfect Days. You and I briefly talked off screen how we're going to talk about this without spoilers. There's probably going to be some spoilers here and there. So if you, I would definitely recommend watching these films.
Yeah, I think for Monster, like straight up, we're just gonna spoil it.
Yeah, it's a bit hard. Yeah, it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to speak about it. Yeah, maybe. So if you're driving in your car and you're like, oh, I want to watch Monster at some point, maybe listen to one of our other episodes first. But let's just get stuck into it. So it has been a little while since we've seen this movie. So the brief synopsis in Monster, or the beginning plot point, is a mother is concerned about her child who is allegedly being assaulted by one of his teachers. So he comes home with bruises and whatnot. And one of the teachers is kind of to be blamed. And then the school is kind of trying to sweep it under the rug. It kind of starts off as not really a thriller, but like quite different from Hirokazu's other works. And I think this movie in itself is actually very different compared to Hirokazu's other works. But like, what do you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen like all of his stuff. Like he has a pretty huge like body of work.
Yeah.
But I think like the last few films I've seen from him, like it's very much like, I guess I would describe it like slice of life. Definitely falls somewhere in like the drama like sphere.
Yeah.
But for this one was pretty interesting because like this one, I think it started out sort of like, like a mystery thriller almost. Like everyone was trying to, like the kid was acting kind of strange. And then it wasn't like, at the start of the film, like they didn't outright say that like he was, or hinted that he was getting abused by like the teacher. He was kind of like acting strange. I think like he sort of like disappeared at some point, and then like the mom found him like wandering like in like a canal or something.
I remember that.
Which was really interesting. I was trying to figure out, like I was telling you like after we saw, I was trying to figure out like where this film was going, and then I think towards like the last third of the film, it sort of like shifts gears back into like a drama, very Hirokazu Kore-eda type
very
of like
very
drama,
much so. Yeah,
which was very nice, very surprising.
yeah. I walked into this movie. I knew it was out, and I knew it was pretty. It'd been doing pretty well on the circuit, but like with most Kore-eda movies, I don't really do that much research before going in because they're not really like they're not genre films per se.
Yeah.
So there's not really too much to spoil because, like, you know, Kore-eda is usually like a humanist drama, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I didn't really. I would say I expected it to be good, but I didn't know what to expect per se. But when I watched the movie, and this might already be the spoiler part, like the film kind of it shifts. Like it suddenly, like, you think Sakura Ando, who plays the mother, you think she's going to be the main character along with the son, and you kind of side with the son and his accusations like instantaneously, but then the film shifts to the teacher's point of view.
Yeah.
And then you kind of find out that it's not that simple, and that he's actually not really a bad person either, and that there's more that's happening beneath the surface. And it was the first time that I'd really seen like Hirokazu use a lot of diegetic elements to shift the times, because at first it was a bit jarring. Like, I didn't realize that they were going back in time to shift the point of view.
Yeah.
So this was like the first time that I kind of seen it, and it was quite interesting. Like, what did you think about that initial shift?
Yeah, I didn't think it didn't feel that jarring. Like I felt kind of like led into it like quite nicely. I'm just trying to think of another example. Like maybe let's say Parasite, right? Like Parasite, there's sort of like a shift as well. But I think for like Parasite, because it was sort of like the reverse. Like it was kind of like going from more like a drama into like a thriller. So you sort of feel like there was that feeling like, oh shit, like what's happening? When you know, like the previous housekeeper like called rang the house, and then like all
spoilers for Parasite. Should have seen it by now. Won the Oscar, goddammit.
and then yeah, but no, like I felt like the shift was kind of like smooth, which was really nice. And then speaking about like that diegetic thing, like visual, I guess like metaphors that he keeps like using to like jump back and forth in time. Like I think the first opening scene of the film was like the building on fire.
That's it. Yeah,
that one was like I guess like a visual cue that he was using to jump
back in time. Yeah. I think I got it from there. I was just like, I think for me, like, I think it wasn't. I wouldn't per se it was jarring. It was just surprising because Hirokazu doesn't. I mean, he does like play with that spatial space in some of his other films, but it's never really like the main like hook of his movies. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is quite interesting. And then like, because Sakura Ando does an amazing job playing the mother. I've forgotten the character's name, but like, I was like on board like with her. And then she basically takes a back seat after that point in the movie, and then it's the teacher, and then you realize, the teacher is actually like really good as well. So then you kind of see that he is sort of trying to protect the children, but there's something else that's at play amongst the kids. What I really also kind of notice is the use of humor in this movie in the first act with Sakura Ando's part, where she's trying to get like an answer from the principal, from the teachers, and they just keep saying, "Oh, I'm sorry." I thought that scene was really, really funny. It kind of comes from, you've seen Broker, haven't you? Yeah. So Broker, when I watched that last year, and I've seen it a couple of times since then, like he kind of employed humor a bit more because like he kind of had that like Korean humor down. So I think he's kind of brought that into like this movie, because I don't remember laughing as much in other Hirokazu films. But like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think like I recently watched like Our Little Sister. Like, there's not much humor in that film either. Like, it's a really nice, sensitive type of like drama, like very warm, very delicate kind of like drama. But not much humor. So no, I don't think I can remember much apart from like Broker and like Monster. And that scene like you were speaking about also was pretty interesting because that one was sort of like, I guess, the first third of the film where like the mom sort of like found out she saw bruises on the son's like ribs, I think, or like the neck.
I remember that.
I can't remember what happened that made her suspect the teachers. I think maybe was it like the classmates or his classmates or one of the house.
I think
was saying something.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember as well.
Yeah.
I think she does hear it from like a housewife, and she hears like a specific phrase that the teacher would say or something, and that the son says to her, and then she realizes,
pig brain or something like that.
like a pig head or some shit like that.
Yeah, and then she went to confront like the teachers and the principal, and then all the teachers and principal, they were like behaving very like showing no empathy, being really cold and like not giving much to like the mom. The mom was trying to like demand an answer, like why did the teacher do this, or like why is the teacher like talking or like abusing my child that way? And they wouldn't say anything. They would just like apologize, like sorry.
I'm sorry. It's a very Asian thing to do in these kind of films. Obviously, I went to school in Australia, never got into really too much trouble, so not sure if that is the same here. But like, that's kind of like a motif where teachers and schools in films, they're depicted as like a body of people that don't want to have a bad reputation without trying to start too much shit per se. It's like they'll usually just be, just apologize and like that should be enough. But it's like no, like you're abusing my son kind of thing. And like the thing is, Hirokazu knows people are going to side with Sakura Ando and her child because like a child is being hurt, so he's kind of playing with like our, I guess, human instinct to believe. But then he takes it back. And like the thing about Hirokazu movies is he never really portrays anyone as good or bad. They're always like, there's always another story. And even the principal, who you think is a bit of a numbnut, she has like issues of her own as well, which kind of not sure they get resolved, but she kind of confesses them to the child as well. Yeah. It's just like, I really like this movie. Like, I mean, getting into, I guess, this is probably the spoiler part, like the third act of the film. I mean, like, do you want to like talk a little bit about that? Like, what happens from there?
Yeah. So I think like if I remember correctly, like I guess we can split up the film into 3 distinct like segments. The way this story was told through the editing was like really good. It's a type of story that kind of like jumps back and forth in time, but like it shows it through like the different perspectives of like each character. And then like each time you're sort of like progressing closer and closer to the truth of what actually like happened. So I guess like the third segment, this was after they showed the perspective of like the teachers and the principal, right? They were essentially like being kind of cold, not giving much information, and just apologizing because they were scared of like ruining the school's reputation.
School's reputation
like,
and media, getting into it,
Yeah, they didn't want the story of like this kid getting like injured or abused like in school, like getting out. Potentially might get trouble with like other parents as well. And then for like the third segment, it shifts into like the kids, right? So like, what was the name of the song? I can't remember.
Let me open up a wiki.
But essentially, the core of like the film rests on these 2 boys. And the third segment, it shows like their perspective. It shows like the very special relationship that they have with each other.
So the film shifts into, and what I didn't know at first, there is like a LGBT section of the film. So you kind of see it hinted at one of the boys who, the lead son, I'm just going to find the name here, Minato?
Minato.
Yeah.
So that's the lead. The older boy.
Yeah. So the older boy, Minato, and his classmate, I think it says Yori, it's here.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see that there's this odd tension between those two, that they are kind of friends and not. And I think Sakura Ando, Saori is her name. Saori visits Yori, and she is kind of asking questions, and you can kind of see that beneath the surface that there is kind of like a friendship that they're not wanting to talk about.
Yeah.
And also Yori is particularly more effeminate compared to Minato and the other boys in the class.
Yeah.
But yeah, the two, they become friends in the third, or you see their friendship.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, I guess, their relationship, which starts to blossom.
Yeah, it kind of like their friendships blossom into something more.
Yeah, and it's really good to kind of see this kind of story told, because in a Japanese setting, it's not as welcoming to LGBT community as much as it is here in the West. It's really looked down upon.
Yep.
So and you can sense that within the film as well, because the boys never explicitly say that they like each other, and there's no I guess PDA or anything like that within the film.
Yeah.
It's all quite inferred, brilliantly inferred by both these actors. The trademark of Hirokazu is that he is really fucking good at directing children. Like, that's his wheelhouse, I think. But yeah, did you have any inkling that it was going to turn into this kind of story?
No, not at all. I think like what you were speaking about before, like him directing kids. I think in the second, I guess the middle part of the film, when they were starting to show the teacher's perspective, and then that lead child character, I forgot his name again.
Minato.
Yeah. He was kind of like, I guess from the teacher's perspective, he was portrayed as like a problem child. Like he was kind of like, this is one scene where he was like tossing his classmates like back around and like creating a scene.
Yeah.
And then when they move on to the third bit, like they were showing that like he was actually doing that to protect like Yori, because Yori is always getting bullied.
Yeah.
By like his classmates.
Yeah.
And Minato finds it hard to stand up for him, because if not, like he would get bullied as well. So like he was acting out to draw attention away from like the bullies, which was really nice.
I think Asians depict bullying in terms of how it feels to be bullied and the ostracization. I'm not sure if I said that word properly. It really hurts to watch, because as you said, you see Minato wants to stick up for Yori, but he can't, because you yourself human instinct, you want to be part of the pact as well. So it kind of shows this psychology of children, and you kind of learn at a pretty early age on being in a group. I guess in a group setting as well, and trying to be with the tribe. But it's hard when you find someone that you care about, and it's just you don't really blame Minato for not standing up to for Yori either, because it's just you don't want to get bullied, So it's it kind of sucks, but it's kind of the way it is as well.
One of the things the film touches on, it's as you said, he writes characters that's not necessarily good or bad. It's just kind of external forces that sort of pushes them to do things that act out in certain ways. And I think it's shown quite a lot in this film, right? It's the parents are trying to understand their kids, but they just can't. And then when they move on to the teachers, you see the teachers are responding and acting a certain way towards the parents, because they have all these external forces. They have to maintain the image of the school. They're receiving pressures from the principal, and then the principal is receiving her own pressure, which forces them to act in a particular way. For the kids, I was reading, actually preparing for this chat, I was reading one of Kore-eda's interview, and he was saying he was thinking, when he was making this film, he was thinking about the kids' story in a way they are in a place that no one could understand. I thought that was really nice. It was kind of this special place that only Minato and Yori it's a special place that like they have. I guess like it's like shown like in that there was this like train that they kept
they usually get this train.
They always, like, go back to. What do you think about the characters, like both of them, like the way their relationship like unfolded?
I think it was quite well done. It was very surprising. As I said, like I wasn't expecting. Well, the thing actually, on hindsight, there's kind of like clues where I was thinking it was headed that way. Again, it was with the casting of Yori. Because he is more effeminate, like just his mannerisms and how he looks, and just like I guess the denial of Minato to Yori is kind of like there's something here. Like he's like kind of like you can kind of tell that he's lying here and there. Like it wasn't a complete surprise, actually. Come to think of it now, I think the way that Hirokazu handled that is actually pretty masterful. Like just thinking about it now, it's actually like, oh yeah, shit. I kind of got that it was heading that way, but like I was also surprised by it because it's not something that it's not a story that he's tackled before.
Yeah, I think because like almost the whole duration of the film, I was trying to figure out like what was wrong with like Minato.
Yeah,
and then like at the start, you're like, fuck, this kid's being a bit weird. Like, why is he like that? And then in like the second part, you're like, fuck, it's like a problem child. Like, kind of like I was a bit annoyed with him. Like kind of like. I think there was one scene where like he just jumped out of his like house window. And then he was like giving the mom like nothing when the mom was like questioning him. Doesn't want to let the mom in. And then after that, I think they showed the scene where like he was like throwing his classmates' bag around and causing like a lot of troubles. It's like, fuck, what's wrong with this kid? And then in the third segment, when they start to show like the relationship between him and Yori.
Yeah.
Him and Yori. Fuck, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Him and Yori, and then showing their friendship blossoming into like something more, and him in some way trying to like protect that. While also trying to figure out like what's these feelings that he's having for like Yori. I was like, oh fuck, so good.
To kind of talk about the ending, there was definitely not a dry eye in the theater at the end of the film. I think when the movie started, when the movie finished and the credits rolled, and the lights came on. I looked at you and your eyes were like fucking red. It's not covered. And we were with another friend of ours who was she was obviously very touched by the movie. It was just like just a brilliant like piece of cinema. And I spoke to a few other friends who had watched the movie, and a friend of mine who is not particularly like a film goer or knows that much about films, but he said like he was really like touched by the movie as well. It was just very impactful. I definitely would like recommend this movie.
I'm definitely gonna watch it like a couple more times.
Yeah, we'd have to rewatch it. Yes.
It's worth a couple more watches because there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more to like unpack.
A little bit more like in terms of a more overt cinematic technique in this film, I think. So it's definitely like worth a rewatch. So yeah, that can probably be that for the first one. We just want to move on to Cobweb. But before we do that, can you pass us the whiskey, please? I will pour another drink. Yeah, there we go. This is it. This is a two Asian blokes experience. Just getting drunk and talking about movies.
I think I clamped up a bit like when we were starting, but now I feel like pretty comfortable.
Yeah, man. It's like, I mean, being on the camera and stuff, it's a big ask at times. I think I poured too much just then, but that's all right.
I'll have some as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You want to pour some for you, man?
Oh yeah.
All right. I won't be too irresponsible because you do have to drive. Yeah. There you go. So I was this next film is from probably one of my favorite directors of all time, Kim Jee-won. We talked a lot about his movies on this podcast. We covered I Saw the Devil with Block Blunders, who had mixed feelings about the movie, which was quite a funny conversation. So if you guys want to listen to that episode,
I think I heard like 3 or 4 episodes of y'all just talking about I Saw the Devil.
Oh,
Or at least like mentioning I Saw the Devil.
yeah.
Or you trying to get your friends to watch I Saw the Devil.
I even said on that episode, I have a habit of forcing people to watch quite extreme movies. I'm still trying to get people to watch The Sadness, which is probably harder to watch than I Saw the Devil. So that's a tier up there. But no, Kim Jee-won is definitely one of the kind of the undersung Korean auteur, because it was definitely like Park Chan-wook, Bong Joon-ho, and Kim Ji-won. They were the trio in 2003. They each had a film, Old Boy, Memories of Murder, and Tale of Two Sisters, all came out in 2003. So they are like the auteurs of Korean cinema, but not to get into too much of that. So Cobweb is a film about... I should bring up the wiki for this.
Well, it's a film about filmmaking.
Yeah, it's a film about filmmaking, and it has the very fantastic Song Kang-ho, who plays a film director in Korea during the late 1960s, early 1970s, where Korean media is quite censored at the point. And basically, the plot begins with the director having an epiphany in his sleep about a brilliant new ending that he wants to shoot for his film, and he tries to convince like the producer of his studio to let him shoot it, but she kind of is inferring no, but leaves it to her niece to make the decision, and the niece seems to be on board with his idea. So it's basically like shenanigans after that, like bringing back all the actors.
Chaos.
It's massive chaos. I really enjoyed this movie. I laughed out loud a lot in this movie. This isn't the first comedy that he's done, and it's definitely a lot less darker than his other films.
Yeah, I think it's like interesting to speak about like Kim Ji-woon and Hirokazu Kore-eda like to get on the same podcast, because they're so good at what they do, but like
They're
such
very
different,
distinct.
very distinct
Yeah.
style, but like very like individual like directors. They're very different in what they do, and then Kim Ji-won, he's very stylistic, right? And I think like
he's supremely stylistic.
Very stylistic director. I think he like plays with like genre conventions more. You know, some films like I Saw the Devil, or I was telling you like earlier when we were having dinner, like his first feature, like the Quiet Family.
Yeah.
He either do like very distinct and specific like genre films, or like he mixes and mashes like, different genres in his films, which is like I find super interesting. Like, playing with all these tropes.
Yeah.
So for this one, it was pretty cool because like when they were shooting the film in this film in Cobweb, like when they were on the sound stage like shooting, it was shown in like this very like I guess like heightened like maybe like 40s like Hollywood style like noir thriller aesthetics.
Yeah, it's the Korean 1960s domestic psycho thriller. So I know a little bit about the history of those kind of films. I think that was when like The Housemaid came out. So that was like one of Korea's like defining.
Kim Ki-young, right? Is it?
I think Kim Ki-young did the remake, but I'm not sure who did the original. I know I watched the original a couple of years ago for film school. And because like Martin Scorsese, he like they found like the negatives and they restored it. But like if you watch it, you can see some of the frames get like skipped because like it was damaged. So it's good that they've kind of like brought it back into like the limelight. But yeah, there were a lot of these kind of psycho thrillers that were, I guess, a little bit misogynistic at the time. So it kind of shows in this film. So I think it was kind of like a really like nice ode to that era of filmmaking that I don't think anyone outside of Korea probably knows very well amongst like film aficionados. Like I really appreciated that like little bit of style of like a film within a film. And of course, being a filmmaker, I have a soft spot for these kind of movies as well, because like so much shit happens on set.
Yeah, you were saying you and NG was there as well. So NG is like a producer and writer and actor. And you guys were like both like, oh, I can totally like relate to what's going on.
Yeah,
like.
there's definitely like I've heard. I haven't been on too many sets where anything like that has happened, but I've heard things where like people's cars get broken into and sometimes people just don't turn up because they're forgotten or whatever, and it's just like it's funny because like the director. He's a really funny guy, but also somewhat insufferable as well. He's kind of the insufferable artist who will not compromise his vision and will put his crew through hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there was a number of actors that I recognized in this film, which I'm going to bring the wiki up. Yeah, it has Im Soo-jung in it, and she's from Tale of Two Sisters. She plays like the main sister.
I didn't recognize.
Yeah, and it's got. If you're a fan of K-pop, it's got Crystal Jung. She's from FX, or as known as Jessica's sister. And man, like, just looking at this now, I mean, I try not to take these too seriously, but like, Rotten Tomatoes is 29%, man. I'm like, what the fuck? Wow. Who's rating these movies, man? Honestly, like, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I was chatting with Dan the other night, and he told me that he watched possibly 5 minutes of the worst movie he's seen this year.
What's it?
I think it's that one on Netflix called like You're Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah or something, and like. I looked at the trailer and it looks fucking rubbish.
Yeah.
And then I looked at
an American. Or?
It's an it's got Adam Sandler in it, and it's got Adam Sandler and his daughter.
Yeah.
I looked at the trailer, it looks rubbish, and then I see this movie's got like 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. And like, well, I mean, they've originally like busted like RT. People paying RT critics to
I was about to say, do they buy the fucking movie?
I think it's been confirmed that they buy the So I'm like, it's got 7.2 on IMDb, which is actually pretty good because I think this is a really like good movie for people that like film and like to see a different style of humor. This humor, it's not dark humor, but there's a lot of kind of like. I'd call it kind of like highbrow slapstick humor.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is within the actor's expressions or the kind of absurdity of the situations. Because there's a character, I just remember now, he's an actor who is playing a detective in another film. And then he says he's like a method actor. So there's some kind of like something happening between Crystal's character and another. They're kind of having an affair, but he kind of sees them talking and he's like, and he like gets out this notepad and starts writing like an investigator.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. It's just like these little layers of like humor. And there's like, I think there's bits where like what the main actress like decides she can't act or she's like sick. So then I think the niece tries to act, and it's like she has to like pretend she's acting bad, which is kind of like a hard thing to do. There's this British, I guess it's a kind of like not a sketch. It's like a British sitcom called Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's like these. It's got Richard Ayoade in it, and I think it's got Matt Berry in it as well. If you know those guys, the setting is there's this doctor who's like a hotshot doctor that like solves crimes and supernatural mysteries. Yeah, and it's kind of paying ode to like. Dodgy Stephen King 80s movies. So there's but like it's told as like that this series has been missing, and it's like they're interviewing the actors. So like it has purposely bad acting, but it's like that stuff's kind of like hard to do. I think that's my best comparison to this film, Cobweb. I want to say it's like meta or anything. It's just like quite intricately like dry comedy, but I mean, how would you describe it? Like,
I think like again, like he also plays on a lot of these like comedic like tropes. Like, I remember there's this one scene where like Sang Kang-ho, the director, I think he was in like the lowest point in like the whole production. Like everything was
yeah,
going wrong.
yeah.
He went into the room and then this
I
like
remember now.
who was it
yeah.
like was it this like superstar director
it's a
that's
superstar,
already
yeah.
like that's already passed away, but like his spirit like appeared to him to give him advice.
Yeah, that's played by one of me and Dan's favorite actors, Jung Woo-sung. He's in The Good, the Bad, and he plays the good. It's funny because that actor is known for being like really handsome, cool action hero. So he's always like super cool in movies. Yeah. But then in this movie, he's not in it very much, but he plays like egocentric director. So he said he has a vision and he's just like, he is like being really camp and he like catches on fire and he's just like laughing maniacally. It was really funny. I'm just thinking about this film now and I'm just like, man, this is actually a really good, it was a very enjoyable film. I'm not sure I would say it's my favorite Kim Jee-won film, but it's like as you were saying, like it's Kim Jee-won is very good at making very different feeling movies. Like all his movies are very distinct from each other. I think Quiet Family. I think this film probably has more in ties with Quiet Family because it is a comedy. But Tale of Two Sisters is a horror. I Saw the Devil is a serial killer movie. Good, the Bad, and the Weird is a action western. Bittersweet Life is a gangster action. They're all like so different from each other. Yeah.
And even his other films, like it goes into like segments where like it's kind of like strange. Like, you know, like I Saw the Devil, like I remember I think like midway or towards the end of the film, like Choi Min-sik's character meets up with all these other like villains in this mansion.
The cannibal the cannibal family.
And then I don't know, like this one this one was good. I'm just trying to like remember like what else happened like in the film. I remember like one scene, I think one of the production companies sent like a guy to like check in on like the production and they essentially locked up the studios, right? They and then eventually they had to let him in and the niece was trying to like sweet talk him, like trying to like distract him and lead him away from like the production. Brought him upstairs to the room and just got him like fucking wasted.
They're like trying to hide him around.
And they try to hide him, and then like what happened? Like they sort of like stripped him and then like tied him up and then like kept him on the second floor of like the house that like they built for the set.
And then they're filming like a pretty climactic scene where the thing is on fire. And oh shit, we let the dude up there.
And they were trying to do it in like one take or something. And then like midway, like Sang Kang-ho was really focused, like trying to get like
the one take.
Get like the one take and get everything like perfect.
Yeah.
And then the producer in the middle was just like, oh fuck, like the person's upstairs on the second floor. Like we can't burn down the set.
I think that's the kind of the dark humor aspect of it as well. And it's interesting because there's like a film head who comes in later as well, who he owns this,
the big boss,
the big boss, and they try to kind of convince him, and they come up with the idea to say that this is like a communist, like an anti-communist film, but it's like not at all. But they just managed to convince him, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. So at the end, like you basically see all the communists burned to death, and they're like, and then he's like kind of like getting off on that. And then it's interesting to use that because that is a Korean thing, you know. That's like using the knowledge of that history to kind of bring forward this kind of humor. But like I really liked all the scenes that kind of how would I say it? Like the space goes to the actual film where it goes black and white, and I'm not sure the aspect ratio changes or not. I don't remember, but I just really liked how in those scenes the actors and within that time period, you would imagine that they're being serious. Like this is quite a serious movie, but by today's standards, this kind of like over dramatic, but also kind of sanitized style of filmmaking looks stupid. So it's using that kind of.
It's quite melodramatic.
It's
quite
melodramatic. But it's also like it's using that kind of old style, like outdated look, but what was serious then. but like kind of using that for humor.
Yep.
It's just like I just find it really like clever. I think the plot can get it's definitely a bit convoluted. It can be a little bit hard to follow, but just as, I don't know, as like a form of entertainment and a form of like, just like showing like this level of care and this kind of new vision of what Korean cinema used to be, I think it's definitely a film that I haven't really seen anything like this.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of like skill as well to pull off, because it's essentially a film within a film. So you have actors needing to act like they're acting.
Yeah.
You know, and then to be able to like not only like visually differentiate that, but also through the acting, through the dialogue. And the music also, which was pretty obvious.
Yeah. I love the music.
Yeah, it's not easy to do that. Like to you know.
Honestly, I think talking to you about this film is making me like it even more. Like, this might be the alcohol as well, but like, I'm just thinking about it now. I liked it when I, came out and said, yeah, that was a pretty good film.
Yeah.
But just thinking about it now and just having this chat, I'm like, man, I actually really love this film. Like just comparing it between like Monster and this film, they're quite different films. I think Monster's probably a better movie, but I would watch Cobweb more just because like it's really funny and it's quite a light watch. Like the stakes are not, there's stakes, but they're not like, it's his least depressing movie by a long way.
Yeah, it's not like a heavy
Nah,
film.
it's not a heavy film. Yeah.
Although I could compare it to like his first film, The Quiet Family, though. Like the Quiet Family, the subject matter, I guess it's darker.
Yeah, it's darker, yeah.
But like the sense of humor, like the tone's kind of light. Like you don't really feel like the weight of it.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of do a bit towards the end, but like also it's quite comedic.
Yeah.
Quite absurd as well.
Yeah.
I think like Cobweb is kind of like pushed up to like another level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Like, is this film, was the whole of Cobweb black and white, or was it just the
the film aspect of it? Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
actually,
right. I'm trying to think,
I don't think so. No,
it's not,
there's color.
There's color.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
We could be wrong. Yeah, but like I'm pretty sure. Yeah, maybe that's the alcohol starting to get to us. We're forgetting. Yeah, but
And whiskey.
Yeah, that whiskey, man. I reckon we don't need to spoil the end. I reckon. There's not really too much to spoil, but the ending is really funny.
Yeah.
Like, it is like the perfect amalgamation of a director who thinks he's all that and has like a brilliant vision of an ending, but it is just like, no disrespect, but it's kind of like an M. Night Shyamalan ending of the 1970s. It's just like absurdly silly, I suppose. Maybe it was effective if it was released back then, but I laughed a lot in this
It's
ending.
just like really like chaotic, and then it just ends like in this like hilarious, like tragic like way.
This really hilariously tragic ending for like what he envisioned. And I think like this movie is I really like this movie. I think everyone kind of hams it up and is a camp to a point where it's not like overly distracting, but it's kind of like to the style of the film. Yeah,
and I also like, I guess just thinking about it now, like the way he dramatizes like actual characters that you would meet on like a film set. Like, the producer, someone that's trying to like climb their way up.
Yeah.
Big shot actors. Producers that just want the money. Like people that are high up that wants to control everything.
Yeah.
And then the director with the artistic temperament, like trying to get everything done his way. Everything falling to pieces. We're trying to like hold it together as much as possible. Great film.
Yeah,
definitely recommend.
Yeah,
watching.
it's been like, I'm just having a quick look at the wiki. It's like, it's quite bare. It's saying that it was shown at Cannes. It's out of competition, and it was shown at the Sydney Film Festival. Yeah, I mean, like this. I'm not sure if this movie was that well received, like, which is unfortunate, because I think like there's an audience that like it. It's got a pretty decent like IMDb rating, 7.2. But yeah, like this, I don't know, like it's weird. I shouldn't let it bother me, but like this is fucking. Rotten Tomato, 29%, man, 29%. It's like,
They're probably not paying the critics.
yeah, they're not paying. I don't think a lot of people have seen the movie, but like, I don't know. Like, this is definitely a movie that should like it.
I don't normally look at ratings. So Rotten Tomatoes is like 29 out of 100.
Yeah, that's the
Wow.
percent. Like, that's out of the how many people have seen. Apparently, only 7 critics have watched this movie, so 5 of them didn't like it. But like, what are you like? What are you looking for? Like, why? I'm just thinking, like, man, like this movie. This is a fun movie, you know. Like,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of craft here as well. There's a lot of humor within like the actual medium that it's being told through.
Yeah.
Dan and I had talked about the movie Joyride earlier this year, where it's kind of like a lot of that humor is like very typical, just like dick joke humor. That's a very American humor.
Yeah.
Like Cobweb needed to be fairly intricately like thought out, I think, for the humor to hit. And you really need like expressive actors to pull off that kind of humor. I think I'm just a bit sad that it hasn't got as much recognition as I think it should have. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just remembering the investigator that's the method actor.
Yeah,
And then he was saying he has a cell in his house. He argues with his wife, he sleeps in it.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah.
I don't know, like would you say like this type of humor that's in this film, it's very like Korean? Because like it's not really, right?
yeah.
It's actually quite unique, right? It's almost like a dramatization of like a type of like humor that's from like I don't know, like the 70s or something.
That's like it's really easy to dismiss that, this is just a very Korean sense of humor.
Yeah, but it's like from all the the other Korean films I've seen, like it's quite different. Like it's not like it's quite hard to put the finger on.
Yeah,
like,
it
what
is,
type
but
of humor
it also
is,
still feels quite Korean as well. I'm just thinking of this other movie that I watched with a friend. Have you seen? What was it called again? It's this movie about these undercover cops who own like a fried chicken store. It's Extreme Job. It's called Extreme Job.
Yeah. No, I
and
haven't.
that humor is quite similar to Cobweb in that there's like a lot of the humor is within like the actor's expression and the actors like looking a little bit goofy, and a lot of it is with like the comic timing of the actions as well.
Yeah.
It's not so much jokes per se.
Yeah.
So like I wouldn't say that there's really much jokes in this film. It's everything is like, it's not like an improvised kind of humor.
Yeah, it's like the situations that they end up in. It's like absurd, and like the way they respond to it's like hilarious.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you guys are listening, go check this movie out. This movie is a blast. Yeah, and you'll appreciate like a lot of the old school like Korean filmmaking. And if you're interested in filmmaking, I'm not going to say this is 100% accurate of what happens on a set, but it can happen. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool. Shall we move on to the final film of the evening?
Perfect Days by Wim Wenders.
By Wim Wenders. Yeah. You watched this film on the first day it came out.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about this film, and I didn't know about Wim Wenders at all, which I guess is odd as a film because he's quite prolific.
Yeah.
German filmmaker. I didn't know about this film. I think I was busy at the time, so I was like, I think you asked if I wanted to come. I was like, I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually Angie, another friend that invited me to come. I think I was having a chat with them at one point, and they're like, yeah, come watch this movie. And I'm like, yeah, sure, like, why not? Like, I'm not doing anything. I wasn't doing anything on the Sunday. It was the last day of MIFF as well. And like, this movie, it blew me away, man. Like, I really fucking love this film. Like, yeah, and it's such a simple premise as well. Like, the story is literally about the everyday activities and musings of a toilet cleaner who listens to rock music in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's basically no stakes. There's no plot. It is just Koji Yakusho. Pretty famous Japanese actor. And he's known for being like playing the crazy guy. He does a lot of yelling really well. You see a little bit of this in this movie, but this is I think it's his most restrained movie in terms of his acting. But yeah, how did you because you're Wim Wenders, you knew about this director beforehand or so?
I haven't seen much of his works actually. I've seen Paris, Texas.
Yeah, I watched it after.
The popular one from him. Apparently, he has another film, a documentary that's screening at MIFF that my friend said was really good. I can't remember the title, but it's a documentary on this artist that's in Germany. An installation artist, if I'm not wrong. But no, I follow Koji Yakusho's. Well, that's why I actually saw his face, and then I was like, I want to see this film because I really loved him in Cure, the Kiyoshi really Kurosawa film. But yeah, no, I actually went into this film cold. Actually, all the other films on MIFF also I didn't. I just sort of either I recognize the director's name or the actor. I'll just get a ticket and just not read about it.
Yeah,
this film surprised me. I wasn't expecting such a gentle, delicate kind of drama.
Yeah, but
also interesting. Very interesting.
It still hits hard as well, and that's the beauty of these these films. It's interesting because this is a Japanese film.
Yep.
It feels Japanese through and through, but it is a German director. Yeah. And this is the recently announced Japanese
Oscar
submission. Yeah. But I just loved everything about this movie. I love the music. I love the characters that he interacts with along the way of his journey. I love these little odd funny moments, the weird awkward moments that he kind of shares with this office lady. They're having lunch.
Oh yeah, she just looks at him.
He just looks at him weird. Was it Noughts and Crosses game that he plays finding the message in the it's just so nice, and just the somewhat insufferable but also kind of you feel sorry for him colleague who's just I need help, can you I really like this girl and stuff,
the young kid.
But even they give the girl kind of an interesting arc, not an arc, but she's an interesting character as well. The movie never gives you everything, but it always just gives you just enough for you to ponder and feel there's something a bit deeper in them, because with the girl, she really likes the music, and she steals one of his tapes, but she gives it back, and then she just talks about music for a little bit. And at the bar as well, he meets the singer there, not the singer, the bar owner. She sings the Japanese version of House of the Rising Sun. This is a really I feel this is a really feel good movie in a way that's not cheesy, not it's it's weird because I know these kind of films, but I also haven't really seen anything this year that has been so gently devastating at some points as well. Because at the end of the day, he's lonely. He's he already had a past. He's got a past in the film. It's just fucking good.
I was going to ask you, what do you think his past was? Because midway during the film, his niece comes to live with him. Right? She runs away from home. His sister, and then she spends I think a couple of days with him, following his day to day. So essentially, what he does is he's a toilet cleaner, and then he goes around to different toilets in Tokyo, cleaning different toilets in Tokyo in parks. And actually, it's quite a repetitive film because it's a day in his life, right? And every day he just goes through the motions, but it's all these small events that happen in between that keeps the film interesting. So when the daughter joins him, right? So she runs away from home, and then she spends a couple of days with him, and then his sister, so her mom, came to pick her up. And then they sort of have a conversation. This was towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
And then it leads to like the beautiful like ending scene when he was driving off to the sunset, and just it's just a shot of his like face like laughing and crying.
It's like it's hard to like, because you don't really know.
You don't really know.
Yeah. That's not really. Yeah, this is not really a movie that can be spoiled, but like it's
quite like open to interpretation in a certain level. Like one thing I kept thinking about, because they kept showing like the tower.
Yeah.
And I'm
the
just
Tokyo Tower. Yeah.
I keep assuming it's like a phallic symbol.
Oh yeah. I have a feeling it was just, I think the tower looks nice. Let's just get lots of B-roll. So maybe, I don't know. But Wim Wenders is probably had a lot more thought into that. But like going back to your question, like what I think his past is, like I assume that he was in a high position of some company, and it just must have fallen through some kind of bad decisions. And I think he feels ashamed of what had happened.
Yep.
So he probably found like a job that he thinks is probably like for the lowest common denominator, but kind of ends up enjoying his job. He likes what he's doing, and he takes a lot of care in what he's doing, because you can see throughout the film when he goes to the toilets, he's always very meticulous in how he cleans. He has a very respectful structure to how he cleans each bathroom, and if there's someone that needs to use it, he always stands out and bows to them. So he's very respectful of his job, but not in a sense of like a spiteful respect. He like genuinely really takes pride in his work, and I think that had probably stemmed from like where he used to be. But in terms of the like laughing, crying at the end, I think he is lonely. So I think there's a part of him that is also like punishing himself for not being, say, successful. Because I think that is still an element of him that is been programmed into him by, I guess, Japanese work society. You know, it's to feel that sense of shame. That's kind of considered almost like an old-fashioned way of thinking, but it's still like people feel shame, like especially in Japan. Like that is like one of the strongest sentiments that you can feel if you fail at something. It's not that easy to get over. I know. What's your interpretation? Like, what do you think?
I feel like I was saying like the Tokyo Tower was like I just kind of keep thinking it's like a phallic symbol. And his character, he's like clearly someone that lives on like the fringes of society. And it's like is clearly like not someone that's like just accepted by like I guess a lot of people, like, and you could tell like he's happy being by himself. I don't know, his character comes off to me as someone that like has a past and is maybe like unable to like address it, or maybe like didn't know or couldn't make any efforts to like amend it and fix it, and then his life has just taken this like turn, and he's just trying to be like contented with like the smaller things, not be too bothered about like things that's happening like, you know, like previously in his life. The way also he like interacts with like some female characters, like that office woman that was staring at him. I don't know, like the way he reacts to them is like, it's not really a way like I think an average like middle-aged guy would like respond to like a female. Like it's sort of like, how do I put this? Like it's sort of like, maybe I just assume like he came out to his family, and his family like rejected him. Took him some time to like find out about himself. So like, you know, like the way he interacted with like the female character sort of like alluded to some sort of like history that he had with like
maybe like
figuring out his like who he really is. Because like that younger girl that like stole his cassette tape, and then came back, sat in his van, listened to the music, and then gave him a kiss on his cheek, and then she like left.
It's interesting to speculate. I didn't really think about it that way.
And then that ending was kind of like, so his sister rocks up, right? And then you could tell like the sister is clearly very well to do. Like she has a chauffeur, a big car. And then she says something to him like before ending off the conversation, was like, oh, so like this is where you live, or something like that. Like, but she wasn't talking down to him. Was kind of like I think she like invited him to come over sometime, or something, like trying to like bring him back into the family.
Yeah, trying to mend it, but he
clearly you can tell like something went really wrong, and he's trying to like erase that side of his past with his family.
Yeah.
So I assume it's that. That's my like interpretation.
Yeah,
It's kind of like he came out, got rejected.
Even though this is a very like feel good, gentle film, I think there's also like this layer of tragedy that's there that you've illustrated, but it's never ever explicitly like told. It's like it never strays too far into drama, to be honest. There's no sense of melodrama. Like, for example, when the girl steals his cassette tape, you think he's going to get really cut and angry, but then she just gives it back to him, and then there's that moment. And like you think, oh, okay, when the sister comes back, you think there's going to be like a yelling match between like the sister. You think there's going to be a yelling match between the niece and her mother, but it is all just like, it's just kind of like very delicately smoothed out or delicately like moved through. And it's just like, I can't really explain how this movie is so compelling, because I was never bored throughout this movie. I was with the guy throughout the whole movie. And like, it is just like, my friends and I were talking about, if you were trying to sell this movie to someone that doesn't really watch these kind of movies, well, how would you explain why this is a good movie and why should you watch it?
It's got pretty cool toilets in the parks in Tokyo.
It's got it does have pretty cool toilets. It's got the what is it? The glass that like
get to see the variety of bathrooms in like Tokyo like parks.
Sure,
it's a very like I don't know, we call it like slice of life type of film, because it really is like the same things happening over and over again. Like you follow his like daily routine, and it kind of and he he looks after his like plants in his house. Like he takes photos of trees. Like he buys like a can of coffee before he sets off for his work. Like it's very like routine, like the same thing going
it's
over and over
like,
again.
like the Shomengeki kind of Japanese story. The genre, like it's a story about people, but like. To play devil's advocate again, you're saying, okay, he buys coffee, he cleans toilets. What's so exciting about that? That's the thing. Like,
it's hard to explain. It's like hard to. I guess it's like a tone thing, right? Because like the way the film was shot also was really beautiful. Like it was shot like in quite a boxy like aspect ratio.
But where are the tits?
Tits?
Where's the tits? Where's the
no tits?
Where's the
nudity,
action?
the sex?
Where's the superheroes? But like, I mean, like it's definitely a filmmaker's film. But like that's like I wish this. I mean, I'm really glad I watched this in the theater. I think I would not like. There's kind of a different experience watching this in a room full of, I guess, strangers. You kind of share this collected feeling of just like, I guess, bliss. But like, it's not a movie that like, I dare say, it's not a movie that needs to be watched in a cinema. But like, I wish that these kind of films were like more shown or like given a bit more of a breadth of levity like amongst like cinema goers. Like, but like it's just hard because like, we kind of live in a very stimulated society where like a lot of flashing shit has to like, fly by to keep a lot of people's interests. But like, I want people to watch this movie. So like, I just think like, how would I tell this to someone that doesn't really watch films to watch this movie? It's just like an interesting thought, because they're not going to.
It's quite hard to say, because it's like it's hard to put your finger on what makes this film so special, right? It's actually quite hypnotic. It's quite mesmerizing, because like it's routine, but like small things like change like here and there, and like as the film plays out, it's like it's pretty much like day after day, like his routine. And it's just like the small little like slight different changes, so it's quite like hypnotic in that sense. like I guess like you get a kick out of like seeing like the minute like changes in his like day to day from the repetition. But also like it's Tokyo, man. It's just nice. It's just nice to look at.
Yeah, just like if this was shot in Australia, it's just like, oh, you got any fucking money for the bus, mate? Like
you can't shoot this in like Melbourne CBD.
Oh, give me all your money, you fucking dog.
You gotta cut this out.
Nah, man, I'll give it that in.
Give it in.
Yeah, give it an in. Just like, oh yeah, hi, I'm the very lovely toilet man. Fuck off, you cunt.
Fuck off,
It's just like
Shibai.
Yeah, there you go, Shiba. Yeah, this was shot in Korea, and like you just get bitten up by fucking loan sharks.
Get stabbed and mugged.
Like, oh fuck yeah. So yeah, it's. No, I mean, a lot of my friends, I mean, me and Dan always say, like, Tokyo is, for a photographer, it's easy mode, you know? You can slip and take a photo and you'll get, like, a nice picture.
Yeah, so it's so rich.
Yeah.
Everything looks so good. Like,
yeah.
Also, another thing that was kind of interesting is, like, the toilets were almost like characters on its own. Like, each toilet's quite distinct. There was this one that like you turn off the switch and it's like it's a public toilet and then like it's like all glass, like it's transparent, you can see the inside, but when you go and you flick the switch, like the glass turns like frosted. So that was kind of cool.
Even the little he like interacts with this American tourist, like that moment is quite funny, but it's also very realistic. It's like this this lady, she's like, how does this work?
Yeah.
Like pissed off at first,
yeah,
and then like he does it for her, and she's like, "Oh, arigato." It was just like it was really, it's funny. It was like quite sincere, and I think that's the moment where you think like this woman is going to complain, but she's like quite grateful still. Yeah, it's a really hard like movie to explain why it's good and how simple and basic it is, but how it also like subverts a lot of like expectations, you know. There is like, there's no plot, there's no explicit drama that can be seen. It's all like under the surface. But I think what you said, it's very hypnotic. Like it takes you, this kind of filmmaking takes you like under a spell.
Yeah.
And then you're just on with it. I think it takes a level of like mastery and age to do something like this. Like I don't think I could make a movie like this at my age. Like I'm not that wise, even though I'm drinking whiskey. I'm gonna pour another one, but
go for it, because it's like you're using, like he doesn't use much. Like you know, like there's nothing crazy happening. Like I don't know. Like it's quite like minimalistic like filmmaking, but it's also like
it was like his first movie. It was his first movie in like 20 or 30 years, wasn't it? Like a long time, wasn't it?
Was he just making documentaries? Or
because I saw that he did a lot of documentaries. I think he's really known for Paris, Texas, and he's known for another one called the Buena Vista Social Club. That was like about the Cuban, I think it's Cuban musicians who have to travel across the border, and it's during like a kind of dictatorship, and it was like hard for them to do. But like, I think he's done a lot of documentaries.
Yeah.
And I think that's like probably like the same sentiments as like what Hirokazu did before he started making films. He was a documentarian, and that's how he knew a lot of like really human interactions.
Yeah.
And it like shows in this one. Like I wonder, like there's an argument that like some people say if you are making like a Japanese story or a Chinese story or whatever origin of story, you have to be from that specific ethnicity or you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But like this movie and even like The Sadness as well, they're two films made by white directors.
Yeah.
But they both understand the like philosophy of what or not philosophy, more like the feeling, the authenticity, I would say. I mean, so much to the point that this is Japan's Oscar, like, you know, submission.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's quite cool. Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just in awe of this movie. Like, it really like is probably like a contender for like my favorite movie this year. Like there's been quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like just what you're speaking about before, like I guess it's just how the question is like the artist's like sensibilities, right? It's like how in touch and how knowledgeable are they of like the subject matter that they're like dealing with. So like another example I thought of, there's not quite the same, but like Burning by Lee Chang-dong, like great film.
Yeah, fantastic.
But he's
one of my
like
favorites. Yeah.
he's quite old. He's like what, in his 70s or something, 60s. But that film was made for like the younger
people.
generation,
Yeah.
for like the young people in Korea that feel like a sort of sense of like helplessness, like about the future, like they don't have control about their future, and he like made a film that like encapsulated that. You know? And it's like at his age, like to do something like that, it's like, you know, you got to be really in touch to like be able to like pull off something like that. It's like it's not like it's not easy.
It's interesting because amongst like a lot of Asian filmmakers that I've worked with recently, and just amongst my like circle of friends, Burning is like the prime example of like shots that we try to replicate, especially the I mean, Dan and I think we talked about this on our Burning episode, like, and I was talking about this with my friends, the topless scene where they're smoking marijuana in front of the sun. That's like supreme. That's like prime filmmaking right there. That is just like, everyone has like, even the project that I'm working on, we're like, oh yeah, it's the burning shot. It's just like, we got the burning shot. We try to get that like that golden hour. It's just like, it's beautiful.
And the camera just floats up. The sun,
There isn't a burning shot in Wim Wenders, so maybe that's the criticism that I have for this film. But I honestly can't think of anything negative to say about this film.
Yeah, I think he won the best actor at Cannes.
Yeah, he won best actor at Cannes. Yeah, it's just like everything about this movie is perfect. Really, like this is like a 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5. Like this is a movie that will also make you a better person watching it.
In what sense?
In a sense that in a world where everything is super fucking rushed, and in a world where like people can't sit down and be like enjoy the simple things that happen. Like we're in a world where like we're just on our phones all the time. We don't even like enjoy talking to people as much face to face anymore. In a world where like everything is, you have to perform to your like top like level, otherwise you're left in the dust. And where you don't have time to do anything, you know, you don't have time to just like sit down and read a book or sit down and listen to music. You only have time to just like, when you do that, you're always too tired to kind of like appreciate what you're doing, you know? So this movie, like the guy cleans toilets, but he loves what he's doing.
And he's very contented with like all the small things in his like daily life.
And it's just like like there was no shame of like maybe working this kind of job. And I might be even guilty of this because like I kind of have done like pretty menial jobs where I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I don't know, maybe this film's message is lost on me in that sense, but like it just makes you appreciate just like almost nothing, just the repetitiveness of nothing and the undramatized life, you know, and that there is like everyone has a story, I guess, and everyone, it's like just beauty in everyday things as well. I don't think a lot of people really appreciate that anymore. And sometimes like if I'm like doing a lot of stuff at one time, I kind of struggle. Like these days I spend a bit more time sitting in the garden and just like looking at the birds, you know, and just like reading a book or whatever, or sometimes not even, just staring. And I really value that because that's really like, you know, like it's just your mind resetting and like kind of just an appreciation for life, I guess.
I think this is really like an age thing. Like I was telling my partner the other day, like in Singapore, when I was in Polytechnic in Singapore, like the director does bird watching. And then back then when we were kids, like, what the fuck, this guy, like, bird watching. And then now I do that.
Like, oh fuck,
you know, like sitting in the balcony, like chilling, like drinking coffee, like so nice.
But then you're like, it's so good. Yeah. I mean, I was in New Zealand last year, and the place that I was staying at, like, there's just sit on the mountains and just watch the sunrise, and just like have a coffee, like just like read a book, or not even like, see, even sometimes just like not, sometimes I feel obligated to do something if I'm doing nothing, like, oh, I should listen to music or I should read a book, but sometimes even just like, just spacing out.
Yeah.
And I think that's like such an important lesson in like this day and age that this film kind of reinforces. That's why I take it out of it. But it's also like, there's just that underlying tension that not everything is, you know, going to plan. Like he's feeling loneliness, you know, he is like, it's not per se like the happiest life that he has, but yeah, it is just, it's
like, I guess he's making the best choices for himself that he can make.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But yeah, I think that's probably, that's as much as I have to say about these three films. Have you got any parting thoughts?
Not much, like, cause again, like, you know, we watched this films like only once, like,
we only watched it once,
a month and a half ago. So like, I'm sure there's like some stuff like we missed out that we can't remember. So I gotta give these films a watch again. I'm probably gonna like rewatch Monster again. First, like that one's really, I really like that film. No, man, like, I mean, all these films that we spoke about today is like really good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's definitely. To those listening, keep your eyes and ears out to whenever they're showing near your joint. Fantastic films, and like, even just talking about Cobweb more made me appreciate it a lot more than like I remember, even though I still enjoyed it then. But I just want to thanks for coming on the podcast, Marcus.
Thanks,
do you have any form of media where people can follow you or something like that?
I have a website, marcuschong.net. So MARCUSCHONG with another G.net. You can just find my work there, and then there's links to my socials and all. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, and we'll probably put it in the link underneath as well. But no, thanks for coming along, and I'll probably get you to come back on. We'll talk about these more, I guess what people say, wanky movies wanky art films, yeah. So no, I hope to our regular listeners that there is something of value that you've garnered from this conversation. Thanks for listening to us through. I've been one half of two Asian blokes, even though Marcus and I are both Asian. So I guess this is still two Asian blokes in a sense. But no, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Take care, guys. See you later.